I'll take all sorts of digs at LDers, and I'm sorry. So, okay. Okay. So the second type of generic for NCFCA is topic, like a topic like oil or something like that. Okay? Oil, Islam, different topics that could be applicable, or specific countries, especially from the NCFCA, having specifics on each country could be really helpful throughout the year, especially if they're doing something with like Jordan or something like that and you don't have a brief against it, but you've got a nice generic brief on pros and cons of cooperating with Jordan or something like that, that can be really helpful. Yeah, Noah. So,
if it's a good argument, it should be counted in the debate round. It doesn't matter how you compare it. Like, people have been running topicality for the past, 50 years? Does that make topicality a bad argument? No, it makes topicality a legitimate debate that needs to be run.
What a generic argument, that topicality. Okay. Okay, be quiet, Mr. Humphrey. So, Noah, that sounds like a problem of not tying it in well enough. You shouldn't be like, isolationism is bad kind of a thing, and just like have this giant isolationism brief and get up in your speech and be like, here are the 6 things wrong with isolationism, and we see isolationism with their case, therefore reject it kind of a thing. If you're going to use generics, you need to tie them in specifically. So they're going to have 2 advantages to their case. You should combat those with specific pieces of evidence from your isolationism brief. Okay, don't tag it as, here are the 6 things wrong with isolationism or something like that.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's a common misconception about generics. They're not meant to be used in bulk. You're meant to pull ideas from them. So if you have a case that, like, one of the advantages claimed is we are no longer dependent on Middle Eastern oil. If you have a generic saying that we're already not dependent on Middle Eastern oil, you can use that as a significant mitigation point against that.
Yeah. So for STOA, mindset such as privacy versus security, different things like that, specific topics, I don't know. Throw out some specific topics for electronic surveillance. Drones. Sweet. Good one.
Really good topic.
Anything else? Okay.
Wiretaps, which won't be much of a problem anymore.
Yeah.
Since there's no wires.
I mean, it's still technically a thing.
Okay, cool.
That's definitely the name.
Cool. Is there any big, so countries for the NCFCA one are going to be big. Is there anything for STOA, aside from mindset and topic, that you guys feel like would be good generics?
A random note on this, I would strongly recommend having a topicality generic for each resolution. For NCFCA, what countries are and are not in the Middle East is going to be extremely relevant. For STOA, whether or not you're talking about the 2 things we talked about earlier, surveillance by electronic means or surveillance in electronics.
For STOA as well, I would also suggest a generic on why media monopolies are bad.
Yeah.
If you were in my STOA TP lecture a few minutes, like an hour ago, you were like the big 6. So basically, I had like a fat DA brief to that.
So yeah, basically the point of generics is to have a argument that applies to multiple cases, but you can link specifically to any individual case.
And I put sector up there just because I can't think of a better word for it, but something like that can be specific to whether or not your policy is affecting the federal government, the states, local government, private companies like Google or something like that. I feel like that would probably be a helpful generic for you guys to have that you can tie into different things. I'm not sure what a better word than sector would be, but I'm sure there is one. Anything else on the STOA one? If not, we'll just move on. Yeah, that.
When I was talking about my lecture about the new tech era, how the landscape for technology is changing at an exponential rate, and a lot of times people and/or laws don't accomplish that or take that into consideration. So you can judge that as a bidirectional approach that you can have to.
Yeah, Apple's going to win. I mean, pretty much how it's going to be. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Some Apple fans here. What? No. I haven't talked about that one yet. Okay. So pre-round, understanding the debate. Okay. First off, Hannah, did I answer your question about going into the first tournament and how to kind of be prepared? A little. Okay. Prep generics and then prep specific cases that you've heard about that have come up in your research. And then there's going to be some cases that you're not prepared for. We'll talk about what to do with cases you don't have evidence against. So we'll get to that. Okay, pre-round. Be confident on the debate and where it's going to go. So understanding the debate. only debate on the ground that you're going to win and you know you're going to win on. So, two things that means. Either A, that means know more about the affirmative team's case in the area than they do. That sounds like really hard to do, but you'll find that a lot of affirmative teams are really ignorant about the topic area that they've chosen to put their case on.
It's actually really hilarious. I had a round at NITOC where my partner and I debated this team that was running a case to expand aquaculture in federal waters, and they didn't have a single piece of evidence saying that there was no aquaculture happening in federal waters. Kind of a problem given that their entire case depended on that. They also couldn't name any of the regulations involved, which was interesting.
One team we debated, United Nations year, was abolishing the International Telecommunications Union because they were taking over the internet or something like that. They didn't even understand how the internet worked. So they really didn't understand that. So that was fun. Yeah, JP.
It's kind of interesting because one of the ways that you can take down a affirmative team is when they don't understand their case that well, just ask them for specifics and cross-sects and they will lose credibility more and more as they don't know certain things.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like IRB in NCFCA last year.
I forced my partner.
I actually knew how it worked.
I forced my partner to memorize like a page-long list of like pertinent facts and information, like about budgets and different things like that. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, and that's round 5. The election law people will remember Eric. They insisted that Eric did not use the internet. Like, insisted that Eric was not an internet system. Adamantly. And so the first 2 minutes of the cross-examination, I just continually asked her how the information was going. She's like, I have no idea.
Who is this?
It's like,
Team name?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Cromer.
Oh, wait.
They mailed it. They mailed it.
they had a thumb drive and some dude like went through security and
Well, that happened in our. We did the same thing at regionals. We were running Eric, and they just were like carrier pigeons.
You know, random the Eric charter that mandates online registration.
You know at the point where your opponent is using carrier pigeons to do something that you're going to win. Okay. Yeah, Chris.
Is it okay to talk with your opponent at the table?
What do you mean by talking with them? Like,
Like,
hey, how you doing?
If you ask for a piece of evidence and you want to clarify their interpretation on it or something like that.
I have a comment on that actually because yes,
Go
I
for
think it's totally fine to like ask for a piece of evidence in rounds. That's totally chill thing to do. My partner actually did that round 3 of NITOC, and so this guy read a new piece of evidence in the 1AR, which I don't even know how he managed to do that, but he did. And my partner got up and was like, hey, can I borrow that piece of evidence? And he was like, actually, asking for evidence is kind of for cross-examination, so no. And we were like, okay, that's one way to do it. A, don't do that. B, you'll look like a jerk. C, like, bad debate. And D, it's totally okay to ask for evidence. It holds people accountable, and it allows for a kind of spirit of levity in the debate round that's missing a lot of times.
Yes. You should give people pieces of evidence when they ask for them. It goes back to why you debate. If the purpose is to get better, educate, pursue truth, and all of that, you do that better when they have access to everything that you're reading and can make sure you're doing it within context and with proper ethicality. Yeah, Luke.
Yeah, you totally could.
Yes, and we're going to talk about procedurals and critiques this afternoon, as well as finish up the counterplans and topicality. Okay? Yeah, Olivia.
And this doesn't always apply, but I found that NED or AF, sometimes it's just a lot easier to have an extra copy of those pieces of evidence you always know they're going to ask for because you probably won't get them back, and if you need to re-reference them. Also, it just makes it easier if they don't get up there and cross-sex and like, do you have this piece of evidence and you're wasting time looking for it. You can even just hand them the methodology to your studies and everything with your 1AC. I know that sounds like, oh man, but what if they find like a vulnerability? Well, you shouldn't be handing them a methodology that has huge holes in it anyway.
Yeah.
So it just makes it easier if you show you're confident in your methodology and using it.
So going into nationals, my partner and I had 6 copies of our 1AC printed because we assumed we would probably lose a couple and we wouldn't get them back from teams for some reason or another. And we also had 2 entire copies of our affirmative backup and every single piece of evidence that we had.
My partner and I had 5 copies of our 1AC going into every tournament this year. We generally left with like 2. We always had 3 copies of each section of our affirmative backup so that we had one for me, one for him, and one for the other team, even though it didn't always work out like that. And then we had 2 copies of every strategy that we wrote for negative.
Yeah, Noah. Methodology is how the study that you're referencing reached the conclusion that they did. So if it's a poll or something like that, the methodology would include how many people they surveyed, what questions they asked, what demographics they were from, different things like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So that was just the first option for understanding the debate, is being more confident and knowledgeable about the topic than the affirmative team is. Second, if you're not more knowledgeable than the affirmative team on their specific area, take the debate to ground where you are more knowledgeable. Prep some insane, crazy disadvantages that you can just own on because you've spent all of your time preparing those specific, yes, or take it to a generic where you can whack them over the head with just generic drones are bad if they're,
Well, I mean,
what do you mean?
I was talking about crafty disadvantages. You should have a generic crafty disadvantage that you can run against other cases. It's pretty cool when that happens.
Yeah. So if you don't know the topic area as a whole of their case, then take the debate off of their case and take it to off-case arguments, like disadvantages or something like that, where you can just hammer home on the things that you're more prepared for than they are. And understand that they're going to be prepared for the disadvantages, but you should just be more prepared for winning them, for winning on the arguments that you choose than they are. Okay? Cool. Okay. Couple things for... Yeah, I apologize we don't have the slide up. We don't have enough adapters, which is sad. So, I know, I don't understand. Apple's going to take over the world once they figure out how to give us cheaper adapters, okay?
They're not going to give us cheaper
Expensive.
adapters.
Wait, how much did you say? $30? 40? You're going to the wrong store, my friend.
True fact.
I got mine from Radio Shack for 15, so.
Was it a real Apple one?
Yeah, I've had it for like 4 years.
Fight me, Chris. Fight me.
You know what? Your brother says that all the time.
Yeah, where do you think he got it from? He lives with me.
Your mom?
Sick burn. No, that was not a sick
Wait,
burn.
okay, okay. I'm going to set a standard. Your mom jokes are not sick burns, okay? Those are the most, like, unoriginal jokes ever. They're not sick burns.